Be it. We should be on. How are we, guys and girls? Talking to myself here right now. Let me do the thing where I pull the stream up on my own phone just to make sure it works. Do this like that. Hopefully all of the audio and everything works alright. But people let me know if it doesn't. So just to start out, Happy New Year to everybody and a Merry Christmas. Hope you had a good one. It is now 2025, which is pretty crazy. The 12th already. I've been kind of slack with the YouTube thing, but we got that last video out kind of talking about localism and all the rest and fixing that green fish. And then I kind of fell off a little bit, just with Christmas, New Year's, trying to take some time off, to do some stuff, but at the same time, it's my busy time of year. So, trying to work as well and keep that work-life balance going through that whole thing. But back to it now. So I wanted to start off by once again thanking the members of the channel for being here. This is all of them here, and a special shout out to Kez Drone Phobia, who just signed up 5 days ago it says, but I thought it was yesterday, but 5 days now. So I've been talking to Kez for a while. He's restoring an old board over in Wales, so we've been talking about that on and off for maybe half a year-ish now. So he's getting there slowly, just plugging away at it, his own personal board, so just doing what he can when he can. But yeah, for 2025, these are the guys we've got. So thank you all for being members, and I'm gonna say to the members now, so I've been making these things and sending them out. I've sent Suzuki-ton, yours has arrived. MJ's, yours arrived. Rick, I believe you sent me your address and yours is on the way. South County, Gareth and Pedro haven't yet got your addresses, so I'm just going to say at this point, if you are in this list of members, just send me your address. Send it to me on Facebook, Instagram. You can email me if you want. Anyway, and whoever's address is coming first, I'm just going to send you the packages because I'm starting to make a lot of these little... So no rush, but if you want a free gift, hit me up and I will send it to you as a thanks for being a member of the channel. Happy New Year, MJ. Welcome. Hope you're well. I'm going to open this green can of soda here. Should work out a way to censor that green can of soda. I'm not sure if YouTube allows green cans of soda or not. So what's been happening here? Not much. It's been super flat waves for the last 3 or 4 weeks. The forecast isn't looking much better in the upcoming weeks. So yeah, kind of grim. Might go over to the west coast on Wednesday maybe for a surf. But yeah, around here it is not looking too crash hot. Let's just check that again, shall we? 0 to 1 foot right now. And what's our forecast? Rubbish, 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 rubbish. Oh, Saturday next week, there might be a little bit of something. Sunday, a little bit of something. Dying down again, and then back to a lake. So yeah, not a lot of work. Still work, but I'm certainly not inundated or anything. It's been very flat, but the west coast is looking a little better, I think. Directly over on the west coast for me is Bailey's Beach, and I think I saw a wave there on Wednesday. Tuesday, where's Wednesday there? 2 to 3. So I might be right. Isn't that? Yes. But yeah, not, the west coast hasn't had much, east coast hasn't had much, up north has had a little bit, but not too crash hot. Looks like there's some stuff coming on the west coast though. So it might get us some more work. Yeah. But that's me. So I've been skating a lot, really. Skating, not much. Surfing. The last surf that I had, I somehow managed to take a big chunk out of my foot with my Twinser canard. So I couldn't do anything for 2.5 weeks, maybe 3 weeks even, because it just removed the entire callus on the ball of my foot from my foot. So I couldn't skate, couldn't surf. I surfed one more time that afternoon, and it was great in the water, but then when I got out of the water, I realized the wax on the board had just been like pulling at this cut on my foot. I've gone through the ones that were just comments, or has been answered a million times before, so we're kind of left with a little selection of things that I haven't fully read, but I've gotten rid of a bunch of the stuff in between. So the first ones, of course, are going to be to do with the new video, and I probably won't write answers to them on this stream. I'll wait till the live stream's over. But they're basically a whole bunch of yarns about regulation, which is kind of cool. And the question that the video kind of posed was, are you a fan of regulation? And is regulation different to localism? And is one good, one bad, both good, both bad? What are your thoughts? So my thoughts in the video basically went along the lines of, I think localism is a bit shit from the perspective of, if there's rules in the water to be followed, then it doesn't really matter to me where you're from. If the rules are there, we all follow them. But then I definitely do understand the side of things where, I don't know, maybe you live in a place like this and you do a whole winter of rubbish waves, freezing cold, and then finally summer comes and good waves come, and then you get a whole bunch of people in. So I sort of understand the frustration of waiting for good surf year round, and then when it's finally gets good, your lineup ends up packed out completely. So I kind of get that, but generally I think that localism is a bit dumb, if I'm honest. But regulation, I'm definitely a fan of, as I said in the video. So we'll start off with Third Surf's comment here, who said 100% okay with regulation. I grew up surfing an area in the Pacific Northwest of USA, that is highly regulated and localized, and violence was standard in the lineup when infractions occurred. I was on the receiving end of that as a Grom, and as a teenager, I delivered a few lessons. Sorry, I was on the receiving end of that as a Grom, and as a teenager, I delivered a few lessons. I'm not proud of that now that I'm in my early 40s, but lessons were taught hard in those days. I take that soft approach with the Groms, but it seems the adults need a bit more persuasion in my experience. It hasn't had to come to blows in 20 years, but sometimes a little posturing and an elevated temper can get the point made without taking it to the beach. Most of the time there's an apology for an isolated incident and it's over, and that's the way I like it. Multiple infractions call for a lesson though, just my personal opinion through my experience. Hard to disagree with that, I think, and especially from my own background. Like I said in that video, I was regulated, and it taught me very quickly what not to do, and so I try really, really, really hard not to do that, which primarily in that case was dropping in on people, and I try really hard now not to drop on people, even if they deserve it. I try really hard not to drop in on people. I had a surf maybe last year, I think, at a beach a little bit north of here, and there was this one guy out. It was me, a buddy, and this one other guy on a peak, and me and the buddy had it for 45 minutes maybe, and then this guy paddled out, sat straight with us, but like never said a word, never looked at us, nothing, and then he kind of ended up at the peak. So he paddled for a wave, I left it, he didn't catch it. Next wave came through, he paddled for that one, didn't catch it. Next wave came through, paddled for it, didn't catch it. And so when the next wave came through and he paddled for it, I was like, well, I've left you 3 waves, and you didn't get any of them, so I can't just sit here all day waiting for you to get a wave. So I just went, and of course that was the one wave that he actually got into, and then he started having a go at me for dropping in on him. But I did say to him, man, I left you 3 waves, like, what do you want me to do? Just sit around all day and wait for you? So I think he kind of got it in the end. Adam Syme, Regulation for sure. I got regulated in the early days. Lesson you never forget. 100% agree myself. Tim says, when I started at many of the good spots, if you showed up with a leash, you were chased out, which is pretty funny. That same guy in the story I told in that video, Ethan, he would also never let me wear a leash, ever, with the thinking that if you learn how to surf without a leash, then you have more board control because you're not reliant on the leash, which kind of makes sense. But then when you go to a place like Waikiki, even last year, no, the year before now, 2023, when I was in Hawaii, he brought me a board to use and it didn't even have a leash plug in it. Even if I had a leash, I couldn't have attached it. So he kind of stitched me up, and that was in the middle of Waikiki, very crowded, and I was, not comfortable at all. So I would probably stay away from that spot. But I'm guessing the idea behind, if you show up with a leash, maybe people suspect you can't control your board on your own terms, so not welcome. Also suspecting that's not a place with 500 people out in the lineup either. Kez says, lol, did you take out Vince? He's someone you don't mess with. Trust me, mate, I know. Yes, it could have been Kez. I don't think it was Kez. They're all pretty young. Older than me, but young. Probably my age now, I would say. I'm not sure if Vince was there, but it was definitely his mates, I would say. Is there audio, guys? I just want to make sure that there is audio. Because I would have been sitting here talking to myself for the last, 10 minutes or so. Somehow, getting audio on my phone, which is playing the same stream. So, if you can hear me, let me know. And if you can't, then you probably don't know to let me know. Getting hot. Hurum store. There is audio. That's good to know. Cheers, MJ. Nice episode. Bring back localism. San Diego. SD, is that San Diego? Is blown. Interesting. I'd never surfed in San Diego. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of localism. I just think bring back etiquette would be more like it. Someone else said, I think a little bit further up, that this one, the next one up, shit sucks post COVID, and I tend to agree with that a little more. I feel like etiquette and manners kind of went out the window a little bit. Not deliberately, I don't think. People just don't seem to know that there is etiquette and manners and rules or guidelines out there. Pardon me. But James said, I had some dude try to shoulder hop me on 2 solid waves. I'm up and riding on the peak and coming down the line with full speed. He missed both of them and crumbled the shit out of the shoulder enough to section it out. That's very annoying. When I kindly asked him not to after the second time and to look down the line before attempting to paddle in, he proceeded to cuss me out. He didn't catch a single wave due to being a kook on a potato chip. Shit sucks post-COVID. Yeah, I feel for you there. That sucks. Sometimes if people really piss me off out in the surf, I'm pretty... I have to be kind of timid anyway. I'm not an aggressive person anyway, but especially being the local ding repairer, I don't want to get into it with some human out in the water and then a week later they bring me their board for repairs and I end up losing business because I've told someone to fuck off or something. So I tend not to say much to people really. But one thing I do enjoy doing is if I'm paddling back out the back, or even if I'm sitting next to a guy I don't like or has pissed me off, if I get the opportunity to kind of like push my board into the unbroken lip of the wave ahead of him and like break that section, I'll try and do that every time. Always makes me laugh. All surf, a big problem I see is a lack of etiquette, mostly with younger surfers, but also late learners. It relates to safety as well. A number of instructors I see don't teach etiquette, which should be lesson number one. When I was learning, you would be told when you messed up, and most kids learn from that. I never saw violence, but the threat was there. As I get older, I'm sure I've gotten grumpier, and I will speak up. 100%. I think as you get older, you get the right to be grumpier as well. I think I've spoken to people before about. We have a couple of surf schools around here, and them teaching etiquette. But I imagine as a surf school, it would probably be really difficult to teach etiquette because at least the schools around here they don't do like higher end coaching. It's all beginners who have never surfed before or maybe three times, and they're all on soft tops surfing straight into the beach, and so they don't even get the concept of left versus right. There is no peak because they're catching straight shore break. So, yeah, a part of me wants to say, yeah, they should teach that as like rule number one in surf schools, but then also most kids doing surf schools, I don't think even could fathom at that stage that waves break left and break right. So a hard thing to teach at that stage, maybe. Uh, Bryce Boy until significant contraceptive use gains results. Okay. It was rude Australians originally on the North Shore who were casual. Yeah, I've heard that before that the original troublemakers in Hawaii were Aussies. But being Australian myself, I'm just gonna call you a racist and move on. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Taranaki Frother. Unfortunately, regulation is mandatory only because people break the surface rules of the waves. That's basically it. 30 years in the water and I've seen it all. In my younger years, I've been dropped in on by locals and confused as to why they feel they have the right to the waves, but they do. My local breaks are regulated by locals. Out of towners come in and don't follow the rules and are confused as to why the locals feel the way they do. On every wave with more than two surfers, there is a lineup. You push in, you get angry outcomes. Just like lining up at the dairy to buy your bread and milk, no difference. Kiwis are generally nice people, so tolerate a lot. There's usually plenty of waves to share about. Unfortunately, regulation is mandatory. Yeah, I agree with that as well. And one thing I think a lot of people don't put two and two together, but when you're sitting in the lineup, it's called the lineup because it's an actual line. Like you're lining up for the wave, yeah? And I don't think a lot of people, especially, was it him who said that? Who said, late learners? All surf said late learners, and I think a lot of fully grown adults learning to surf in like their 30s and 40s don't put the two and two together that it's line up. You should be lining up towards the peak. Gmail. I'm at the point in my surfing life since 66 that it's a given not to drop in, especially on hot young rippers, hot doggers. I still get waves due to my wave knowledge and various positioning techniques I use. I did have one episode recently that cost me a couple of nasty dings in my favourite quad fish. I paddled to a new, better peak with three other guys and sat outside briefly. When a good wave that everyone was too far inside to catch, I was in the perfect spot. Starting to drop, one guy paddles up the shoulder, not away from me but towards me, and turns his turns turtle on his shortboard. Jesus. I tried to turn inside him, but still hit his board. I wasn't local, even though I started surfing in that area before he was born, so I apologised to head off a confrontation as he started making regulation noises, even though he was in the wrong. So I just caught the next wave in and beat it. Not worth the trouble that could have followed. This is odd, but things like this sometimes happen outside the rules. Yeah, as to quote Pirates of the Caribbean, the rules are more like guidelines, I think. But turtle rolling a shortboard in front of somebody seems a little bit crazy. Like, why not just duck dive? Unless, like, you've got no choice because all the surface board's an inch away from yours, and you've just got to do something. But yeah, that doesn't seem right. And then there is a thing with elders too. I think even if they're not local, like you said, you're not local, but you were surfing that area before he was born. I have a adopted uncle here in Mangawhai who's been surfing the beaches around here since he was younger than me. I'm 38, and I'm guessing he's been surfing these beaches since he was about 17, and he's now 61. Not to give away Uncle Jerry's age on the internet. But he got called out once. He paddled out to a beach just south of here, and there was a crew of 5 or 6 of the local guys around here who we know. And he hadn't even done anything yet. He was literally hair not even wet, paddling out to the peak, and then they all just started heckling him and yelling at him and telling him to fuck off and you get out of here. And he's the nicest guy on planet Earth, very sensitive man, and he was devastated. And he'd been surfing that spot forever, long before they were born. And most of them are older than me even, but before they were born, Uncle Jerry was out there surfing. And so, although he wasn't local, yeah, kind of, there's got to be a respect for elders, not just in the water, but on land as well. I definitely give away to old fellas if they're out there, just because respect your elders, yeah? Steph, regulation 100%. If not for anything else, reminders on etiquette in the water are good. 1 or 2 people getting out of line at a point can screw up the entire lineup. As you highlighted, it can lead to injury. Sadly, the younger generations never saw the violent side, and therefore tend to be less observant of etiquette because, like you said, there are no repercussions. Thanks for taking the time to highlight the subject. I can only hope the message gets out to one person who isn't informed. Keep up the good work. Cheers, Stefan. Stefan, sorry, not Steph. Yeah, it only does take 1 or 2 people to screw the whole lineup. So, and I think it has that domino effect too, because if you've got 4 or 5 people out there who are potentially going to screw it up because they just don't give a shit, but then they see one person harshly get called out. I'm not talking like beating them up on the beach, but just told like pull your socks up or fuck off. Then those other 3 or 4 people, they might stop and think a little more before they paddle for that next wave, which maybe they wouldn't have stopped and thought before paddling for that wave if they hadn't just seen that person get yelled at by a bunch of angry old blokes. So yeah, food for thought. But on to other subjects. This is an oldie here. Finbox replacements, which we'll talk about at the end, but I've got a plan for the beginning of 2025 on the channel, and it kind of involves videos like this. But Alpho says, great, I use a combination of those 2 methods on larger dings. I cut a piece of foam smaller than the hole and fill or glue the gap with PU foam. The good thing is that I then have a constant or consistent density inside the board, and I do not need to make any accurate cuts. I left this comment here because I haven't done that before, but I really like the idea, and so I might actually do a whole video when the appropriate board comes in doing that method. So basically what he's saying is you've got a punched in fin box. This video was FCS2 repair, but we did 2 different methods. One of them we glued in an old offcut of PU foam from an old board. The other one we used 2-part expanding foam, and we did both of those repairs side by side. So what he's saying is if his hole is that big, he cuts a piece of foam that big, smaller than the hole, but still a PU foam, and then he just sits it in the middle, and then he uses his 2-part foam around the outside of that higher density PU foam to kind of glue it in. I recently, last week or the week before, I fixed a board where the nose had snapped off. About just shy of a foot of the nose had snapped off the board, and for the first time I reattached the nose. Instead of using micro balloons and resin, I reattached it using PU 2-part foam. and it worked really well. And then, of course, there were some voids and some gaps, especially on that one because the nose didn't line up perfectly. So then, as per usual, filled that area, leveled it all off with micro balloons and resin, and then glassed the absolute shit out of it. And it worked really well. So I'm super keen to give this a go. And like he says, then you don't need to make your accurate cuts. You just get it as close as possible, and then the expanding foam will do the rest. So yeah, I like that method. Salty River says, hi there, is this the same with a soft or a foam board, soft top I guess, on top or its edges? So this was a rail gash in a PU board. That was actually my first YouTube video ever. And we filled it with expanding foam, sanded it, micro ballooned it, painted it, and 6-ounce clothed it from memory, and then pinstriped it, sanded, polished it. But the short answer is no, because this, basically where that pinstripe is, towards the white of the board there, is going to be that foam, whatever soft tops deck is made of, it's that stuff. And then your rails are more than likely going to be plastic. Whether or not epoxy sticks to that plastic is questionable. Often it doesn't. And then we're using EPS in soft tops as well, so you wouldn't use the same materials because those materials are going to melt that EPS foam. So definitely not. I generally don't like soft tops because I think they're just inevitable landfill. They're going to end up in the dump because they're not repairable. You can't repair them shy of using like flex paste, silicone, combination of flex paste and silicone and duct tape. There's just no way you can fix them to any real quality standard, and so they're just going to end up in landfill, unfortunately. So no is the answer to that, and this one I will reply to via text. These ones down here were long, so I won't. And also, there's not much for me to say to them other than I agree. So I might just write that. So soft tops are made from different materials. Your deck is a type of foam. Obviously, your rails are likely plastic, which epoxy may or may not adhere to. The interior foam of the board is EPS, meaning can't use polyresin like in this video to pair it, as polyresin melts EPS foam. Because of the materials soft tops are generally made of, there is an exception to this, which I'll talk about. They are, what is that? What have I done? They are not comparable to any kind of quality standard. General advice is materials like flex paste, silicone, combination of the two. Let's make sure whatever you use to melt the EPS inside the board. Sadly, they are landfill waiting to happen. So the exception to that is I've had 2 or 3 of these boards. I can't even think who makes them. Hayden Shapes, maybe, which are a fiberglass. I think they've all been poly board, normal hard board, but then they put a soft top deck on it. Sometimes they wrap the rails, sometimes they don't, sometimes it's just the deck. But those ones underneath that soft deck and the soft rails, if that foam does wrap the rails, is just standard poly or epoxy construction. So if there's any type of damage, you can cut away the soft top part of the board and repair the fiberglass underneath it. So I actually rate them. I think they're quite cool. Eventually, as you ding it and ding it and ding it and cut away soft top, soft top, soft top, you're going to end up with just a normal fiberglass hard board. But at least they're repairable. I think if you're going to make a product, it should be repairable. That's kind of why have I written that like that? It should generally be a rule with products, I think, in whether it's tech or whatever. If it's something you're producing and selling and giving to consumers, then they should be able to have it fixed, and soft tops just don't fall under that category. Same with those real cheap, shitty boogie board, bodyboard things as well. Just stuff destined for the dump. Cheap as well, which is a problem too. If they were expensive, at least maybe people would try harder not to mess them up. But the fact that you can go to Costco and buy a 10-foot soft top for $100, well, doesn't matter if I snap it in half or ding it or just throw it in the dump, get a new one. Especially with their return policy, they'll probably just give me a new one. Denomyano store says, do you ever use unwaxed poly in surfboards? Yes, we do, and maybe I'll talk about it now. So I've got one more video to edit, which I might actually take the day off tomorrow and just plug through it, being Sunday. Which is a tail repair from memory. I actually did it so long ago I can barely remember, but I'll remember when I see the footage. So all the footage is there, I've just got to tie it together, and then I don't have any other videos lined up. So I think something that I've forgotten with this channel often is that I've sort of been catering the channel to the people that have been here since the very beginning, which is a good thing. But also I have maybe forgotten about people who have joined the channel in the last month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, or even 8 months. And so if this channel is meant to be kind of helpful for people on their journey of learning how to fix or make surfboards or use fiberglass, then it's difficult on YouTube channels to go all the way back to the beginning, to the original videos. So I think at the beginning of this year, I'm basically going to start again. And what I want to start with, especially too, because some of my old videos, I didn't have a good camera, I didn't have a good microphone, I was not as capable at editing as I am now. Not that I'm good at editing, but I'm at least capable now, I think. This video in particular is just shy of 100,000 views. This is my first video on the channel, and I hate it because the audio is terrible and the camera's terrible and the filming's terrible, and I forgot to film bits which I should have filmed. So I think the first 2 videos after this next one, which I'll hopefully get put together tomorrow, are going to be a guide to poly repairs and resin. So we'll do a more in-depth look at poly resin, sanding resins, laminating resins, maybe different techniques as well, because I've seen a lot of people use different techniques for basically the same job and they work. So we might, if I can find a board with multiple dings on it, then we could do all of those dings in slightly different ways with sanding resin and laminating resin, and not to show that one's better than the other, but just to show that, hey, you pick your one, and if that's what works for you, that's what works for you. And then after that video, I will do one on epoxy again. And I do have a video on poly and epoxy. I think one of them was mentioned down here. No, it was not. But they're old now, and I feel like I can do a better job at them, and we have a lot of new subscribers, and so I think it'll just be something that's helpful to put out there again. So those are going to be the first two that I want to do in the new year, aside from that one which I filmed last year and just haven't edited yet. But to answer this question, do you ever use unwaxed poly in surfboards? Yes, every time I laminate. So if you're ever pouring a coat of poly resin which doesn't require sanding, then you're going to use laminating resin. Pardon me, that's generally speaking only when you're laminating, but not always. Sometimes you'll want to do a resin coat over something and then put a gloss coat, let's call it, but a sandable coat over the top of it. And that might be to thicken that area up so you're less likely to sand through. It might be to help build it up if there's kind of a low spot, things like that. But yes, every day I used unwaxed poly, and every day I use waxed poly. So easily answered, but definitely something I could do a video on, or another video on. So that's the other thing. So unwaxed resin, poly resin, is called laminating resin. So if you're laminating, it only stands to reason that you're going to be using unwaxed resin. Any stage of a poly pair or build that doesn't require sanding. For the next step, will be done with laminating resin. I'll do that on the keyboard. Fresh Salty Fries, who has commented before. I love that name. Have you worked with ASA Plastic Ace Tech skin cover for paddleboard? Illy got a crack. Don't know who Illy is. On it, I'm wondering if I could class it like Surfy Repair. So Ace Tech skins, from memory, are going to be Bic, I think. Ace Tech skin surfboard. Like the cigarette lighters, I believe. Oh, maybe they're not Bic. Oh, that's Bic. Yeah. If I'm thinking right, oh, there's Ace Tech there. Who is this? God. What have they done? I can't read that. EPS foam core, woven fiberglass wrap, thermoformed plastic skin. There you go. I'm pretty sure this is the same, or maybe not this one in particular, but I'm pretty sure these types of boards, these Bic boards, use them. Oh, in fact, that Ace Tech. There you go. Yeah, Bic, Ace Tech. Yes. Yes, I've fixed Bic boards before. Where are we? There. The problem with plastics is that epoxy sticks to some plastics and it doesn't stick to other plastics. So kayaks, for instance, you can buy like those. I've got one even. The kayak for spearfishing that I use, like a diving kayak, or even the cheap kiddie ones you get. They're made of a type of plastic. I don't know anything about plastic, but I suspect that that type of plastic is really oily, and when you sand it too, it doesn't sand. It just kind of burrs up. It almost goes fluffy, and epoxy resin just doesn't stick to it. It'll go on there, it'll cure, and then once it's cured, you can just peel it off like a giant blister. As far as I can remember, trying to remember, I don't think I've ever had any problems with these types of boards with epoxy resin from memory. Don't get them in a lot though. Thank God. From memory, any big boards I've had brought in had no trouble being repaired with epoxy resin. That said, there are so many different types of plastics, epoxy doesn't stick to them all, and these companies are constantly changing their builds and materials, so it can be hard to keep up. You'll find out quick if your epoxy doesn't like it though, it'll just peel off once cured like a blister. Kez again, my favourite video. Kez Wales, what inspired me with the dragon, my friend. So the dragon is the board that he's fixing. It has the Welsh flag on the bottom of it, which is a dragon. So that is the dragon, and this is the cloth inlay video, which I don't know how long now I've said that one day I will download that video myself and re-edit it into something more palatable. I can't see myself doing a cloth inlay again in the near future. They are a lot of work. They're quite difficult. So unless Justin House Surfboards wants one done for himself, this one was actually for him, or he made it for a customer, but it was one of his boards. Yeah, I can't see myself doing one again, so it would be good to re-edit that video and just cut a bunch of the deadness out of it. Other one which I made that long before YouTube, or the YouTube channel, and long before the YouTube channel was even an idea. But I just knew the board was going to be really cool, so I knew I had to film it. But I didn't really know, once I'd finished it and I had all the footage, I didn't really know what to do with it. So I just kind of like put all the clips together in one like 1400-hour long video or whatever that is. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of work I could do on that video with that footage. This was the bar crossing. What a doongie. Probably an Aucklander from the North Shore, no doubt, mate. We actually had two other incidents recently. I almost made a video on it, but I couldn't bear to go through that again. So one was here in Mungafai. I was actually surfing. It was the same day I cut my foot. So I was on the. I don't know if you can see. I don't know if I can zoom in on this. Maybe not. But hopefully you can kind of see. This is the surf beach over here. Then we have these rocks here, and it's the bar, and that's the boating channel on the right side of the rocks, the south side of the rocks. So I was surfing out here the day I cut my foot, and it was big. It was a solid day, kind of like in this thumbnail here. And as I was getting drilled and losing chunks of skin from my foot, I looked to my right, and I just saw a giant mast floating past the rocks, and there was like a 45, 50-foot catamaran going out in conditions like this, with the lifeguards chasing them down in the IRB to stop them and turn around, because they shouldn't have been going across the bar in that weather. But by the time the IRB got to them, it was too late, and there was no way, like, turning around wasn't an option anymore. They would have gotten rolled, so they had to just power through it. And watching the webcam footage from Surfline was just absolute insanity. Again, went out in the wrong spot, didn't use the boating channel, picked the worst, most treacherous water to cross in. Luckily, they made it. And then a week after that, down in Raglan, where they also have a surf cam, some muppet on his boat just like went, I don't know how well you know Raglan, but he just drove in. There's a boat ramp at Manu Bay, so you're kind of surfing towards the boat ramp, following a cliff wall again, or a rock wall again, or a rocky beach. But this boater just went straight through the lineup, all throughout the waves. If he'd gone like 20, 30 meters over, he would have been in flat, calm water, no people, no waves, no rocks, nothing, and just made it straight to the boat ramp. But for some obscure reason, he got as close to the rocks as he possibly could, got as close to the surfers as he possibly could, in amongst all the waves. So I think he ended up getting harsh words at the boat ramp. People reported him to the police, Coast Guard, and I'm pretty sure they got a hold of him just from that webcam footage. But yeah, summer. You can't escape it, whether you're down south in Raglan or you're up north here. There's some people out there. And the main reason I wanted to do the boat on the catamaran is because there wasn't a single surfer out on the bar. It was high tide. You don't surf the bar on high tide generally. And so it was just the boat. The only people that stood to be injured, hurt, drowned were the people on the boat. They were the only ones at risk. But still, this video was never about surfers versus boaties. It was just about boaties knowing how to navigate water, regardless of who else is out there. If there's other people out there you're putting at risk, well, that's really bad, but it's not much better if it's just you. Someone's got to go out there to save you, be it surfers who are already there, or lifeguards who are on the beach chasing you down in an IRB. Skittles. We can maybe watch this one for context, because I actually haven't seen this one myself in quite a while. EPS stringerless surfboards, glassed in epoxy using low density weak EPS, often underglassed to keep the weight down, timber stringer removed and replaced with these carbon strips. How strong is this carbon fibre? EPS stringerless. Weak. Why so weak? So this comment is in regards to that from Skittles. I learned the hard way. Bought a few Speedlight Mayhem boards. One of them turned to shit after landing a small aerial where the heel went into the board, crunched the carbon strip, and telegraphed through the bottom of the board, creating a bubble D-lam. God damn. Funny thing is, Mayhem bought an old surf shape factory, Basham's in San Clemente, and their surf repairs could not repair the board without the board delaminating after the first surf. Fucking joke, fixed myself, but board is turning Frankenstein to keep alive, guarantee. Yeah, it's the thing with materials like that. To me, you just can't beat a piece of wood. I've been working on a crease this week. Granted, it's an 11-foot board, but it had been creased before. It's a Takayama EPS stringerless. It does have two, pardon me, we'll call them stringers. It's basically vertical laminated fiberglass, really thin, from nose to tail, deck to underside. So imagine stiffened fiberglass but standing vertically through the foam. So it's got two of them running down the board. It's 11 foot. It's a long board, and the guy's taking it out in waves it's not designed for, but he likes riding big waves on big boards. So the board creased inevitably. So he took it to a ding repairer a little bit south of here, who fixed that crease a little while ago now. And now the board's with me. It's being painted. The repair's done because it creased again, and we suspected that it probably creased at the end of the original repair on the first crease. And so as I was sanding it, I found two carbon fiber strips, and I couldn't work out that the carbon fiber strips, if the crease was here, the old crease was up here. The carbon fiber strips came from the old crease, which I couldn't see because it was all painted, but they led into my crease and then they just ended. They didn't go beyond my crease. So I suspected that the original repair used carbon fiber. So I sanded all the paint away, exposed the old repair from the original crease, and sure enough, the other repairer has put two strips of carbon fiber, maybe 1/4 of an inch wide, and exactly where that carbon fiber has ended, the board has folded and creased again. So it's just all these materials, and especially leaving them not going all the way to the nose, all the way to the tail. To me, it's all just a gamble, and some of them are incredibly strong that you can't even cut the stuff with scissors. It's so strong, and then other stuff is so weak you can bend it in half with 2 fingers, like in that video. And so if I was paying $1,000+ for a surfboard and it had carbon fiber in it instead of something like timber, if it's additional to something like timber, that's a different story. But yeah, it's just too much of a gamble for me for the money they charge for those boards. I'm biased though. Can't beat a timber stringer, in my opinion. With wood, you know exactly what you're getting. With carbon, it could be so strong it ends up creasing your board where it's ended, or so weak. It's not right. Or so weak you telegraph it through the bottom of your own foot while surfing. Gambles. Kes, in the UK, car dings are called dents. Not that I'm going to start a ding repair shop. So this was a members only video, but I basically was talking about how I had to change my slogan. It used to be small kind ding repairs, got a ding, bring it in, which I thought was a really clever little slogan. I liked it. People used to laugh. They'd say, "Oh, I saw your sign, got a ding, bring it in." It's really catchy. I like that. People were fans. I thought it was cool. But God, people just kept bringing me cars. It was crazy because all these people would see would be the word ding, and they would literally drive where my work is. There is a panel beater. Actually, at the time, not anymore, but there were 2 panel beaters / automotive painters, and they would literally drive straight past these 2 automotive repair guys to drive to my work to ask me, "Oh, I've got a ding, can you come and have a look at it?" And then I'd go outside, and it was always a Mercedes, a BMW, an Audi. Like, no one ever brought me some clapped out Corolla, you know. It was always like a high end car that they would bring me to fix their ding. So I had to change the slogan to "You Kook It, we fix it." So I've still got some old signs around the place that have got a ding, bring it in. But yeah, that's why I had to change it. But I'm the same as you, Kez. In the UK, car dings are called dents. I had never heard anyone say I've dinged my car, or I dinged someone else's car, or I've got a ding in my car. I'd never heard that before people started bringing me cars to repair. But maybe I should have just started repairing cars, because I was getting more work than the actual repair guys who do cars. Who have we got? Eplocal. Oh, this is the fin measuring video. Great stuff. Just one question. Do you have the tool at 90 degrees to the fin, or 90 degrees with the stringer? I would think the fin because of the toe in angle. Small difference in cant, possibly. Okay, so I think what he's saying is you have your. Let's see if I can do. Oh, that's not. There we go. That's your fin, and your stringer goes like that. We're talking about the measuring tool. Let's pull up a shot of it, shall we, so we know what we're talking about. I'll mute that. Oh, look at that. He's drinking again. He's always drinking in these videos. I'm not an alcoholic, guys, I swear. Alright, that's what he's talking about. Right there. Let's go back a fraction. So, because the fin isn't straight, it has a toe angle, so it's pointing towards where the stringer meets the nose. He's right. This bottom part of the jig, it's not going square from rail to rail. It's actually pointing ever so slightly towards the tail of the board. So he's saying, do you have the bottom part of this jig at 90 degrees to the stringer going straight across the board, rail to rail, or do you have this part of the jig flat up against the inside edge of the fin, in which case this bottom section isn't going to be 90 degrees to the stringer? That's what I think he's saying. So yeah, the answer is you go flat to the fin, or I go flat to the fin anyway. It probably doesn't matter if I'm honest, but yeah, it just seems obvious to me to have all of the flat section of this tool, this measuring device, against the flat section of the fin. And really, it doesn't matter. If you're installing new fins, it's a little bit different, but which I kind of got into it a bit in the comments of this video. I wonder if I can find a shot here. So let's try that one. So if you're only repairing boards, it really doesn't matter, as you don't need to read the numbers on the gauge. If the box says 9 degrees in it and the fin is reading perfectly 9, or it's reading 6, or it's reading 12, whatever, you can actually see, as I'm holding it there, this part of the bottom, the floor of this measuring device is actually pointing behind the fin there by the looks of it. So yeah, it's not 90 degrees to your stringer. But because of the concave or V's or whatever they've got going on in the bottom boards, as a ding repairer, all you have to know is this flat against this fin at whatever setting? And then when I move it over to this fin, is it flat against this fin on the same setting? and that's it. The number doesn't matter at all. So it doesn't really even matter how you hold the gauge, as long as you're getting the same, no gaps here when you hold the gauge on this fin, and no gaps here when you hold the gauge onto this fin. I hope that makes sense. So what did he say? 90 degrees to the fin or 90 degrees with the stringer? With the fin, for sure. So when he says a small difference in cant angle, possibly, I'm not reading the cant angle. It's incredibly rare that I'm reading the cant angle. The only time I'm reading that angle, actually looking at the number, is if I'm installing two boxes, so he's knocked out both of his fin boxes, or if I'm glassing a new board and I'm installing fin boxes, then yeah, we're going for an accurate, and we have to make sure that the cant angle is within, if we're using a 9-degree box, we're within that range, and both of them, we can't have one at 8 degrees and one at 10 degrees, or even one at 9 and one at 8. Both have to be 8 or 9 or 10 or 6 or 3 or whatever they are. But yeah, for ding repairs, I very rarely look at that number. Not generally. I'm pushing that. I don't even know what that yellow thing is. Measuring doodad hard against the fin. So 90 degrees with the fin, not the stringer. Oh. As long as you're doing this consistently. So that's one thing where he could be right here when he says small difference in cant angle, possibly. If you measured if I measured this fin with this gauge 90 degrees to the fin, and then I took it over here and I measured this one with the gauge 90 degrees to the stringer, then possibly I'm going to get a slight difference in what I'm seeing. But as long as I've got it 90 degrees to the fin here, 90 degrees to the fin here, or 90 degrees to the stringer on this side, 90 degrees to the stringer on this side, it should give me a result. And it doesn't matter what the numbers say. I'm just going to get... It's all visual with that. As long as you're doing this consistently on both sides, it shouldn't really matter for repairs. As long as you repeat the same step both sides, you're working to the same visual cues. Gaps between doodad fin. Pushing that measuring doodad hard against the fin, so 90 degrees with fin, not the stringer. As long as you're doing this consistently on both sides, it shouldn't really matter for repairs. Pardon me. Oh god, I've done it again. I don't even know how I'm doing that. As long as you repeat the same step on both sides, you're working to the same visual cues. No gaps between the doodad and fin. Regulation for safety is fine. Localism is bullshit, in my opinion. I agree. 100% agree. That's kind of where I sit. It's important, don't get me wrong, I think it's important for visitors to respect people who are from that area. No different to um, going to someone's house and you just respect the people that live in that house. But I don't think that means that the people that live in that house get to poke you in the eyes whenever they want, but you're not allowed to poke them in the eyes. It's a strange analogy, but something like that. Like, just because I'm in your house respecting you because it's your house doesn't mean that you, by default, get to disrespect me because it's your house, not mine. That just seems bizarre to me. I've also always found it kind of weird that people are like, I guess it kind of falls into like nationalism. I don't know if that's the right word, but people who are like proud to be Australian or American or wherever they're from, that's always tripped me out a little bit, to be proud of something that you kind of had no control over. So if you're proud to be local at your spot in San Diego or Hawaii or New Zealand or wherever you are, that's just a little bit weird to me. So yeah, I feel like there's a difference between respecting locals but giving into localism. It's a weird one. This video, I'd forgotten all about this video. I did actually see this comment earlier. How old is this now? This is 2 years old. So if you haven't seen this video, watch out for these Instagram accounts. I can't go to them now, I don't believe, because they've all blocked me. Let's check them. That one's blocked me. That one's blocked me. Oh, maybe they've been removed. I don't know. The link you followed may be broken or the page may have been removed. I mean, this guy left this comment 1 day ago, so I'm guessing, unless they've just started new pages. But basically what these guys were doing, if you hadn't seen the video, is they were... So this one, Surf World, with 2 L's. They were posting up, they were stealing videos from surfboard shapers. I'm not sure whose board that one is. Wolf, who I believe is in Brazil, maybe. So that's a video that Wolf posted on his Instagram. These guys steal that video and post it on their Instagram and say that they're doing a giveaway. So you have to tag a friend and you get one entry. You have to follow Surfer Shore and Surfers Culture, which are their other Instagram pages, who run the same scams. And then you have to DM the word win to Surfer Shore and Surfer Culture and these other pages. So then, this is an example of me entering the competitions, and I keep winning the runners-up prize. I don't get the full prize. I don't win the board that they're giving away, but I win a mystery box. So from Surf here, I won an $85 mystery box, and from Surf World, I won a $65 mystery box. And so when you go to their website, they give you a code, I think it was. So you go to their websites, which were all weird, not right, but there's the mystery box there, and they sell surfboards and stuff, but I don't think they're a real shop. They've just built a... Well, I know that they're not a real shop. They've just built a website to look like a real shop. But the really suspect thing was, look, they've got... So they claim to be all coasterized, surf culture, surf world, but then they've got climbing and bouldering, military, ski and snowboard, mountain biking, surfing, snowboard and outdoor gear. So I have no doubt that these guys have these types of Instagram pages targeting climbers, military clothing enthusiasts, skiers, snowboarders, mountain bikers, skateboarders, and they do the same scam targeting all these different communities. So then when you go and claim your mystery box, the catch is, and the mystery box is basically, normally it would cost you $85, but you get it for free because you're the runner-up in this giveaway. So the mystery box could have a pair of sunglasses. It could have a brand new bloody Channel Island surfboard in it. It could have a watch, a GoPro, a longboard, bloody diving gear, whatever you want. It could have in there. It's a mystery box. The only catch is, to the free mystery box that you just won, you have to pay postage for it, and the postage is like $20. So I actually won. Legitimately, I entered one of these things, and I got the message saying you owe, or you got the runners-up thing, and you won. So I went to do it, and then I was like, $20. I don't know if I want to pay $20. Sorry, just looking at your comments, realizing they're there. Yeah, I don't know if I want to pay $20. So I didn't, and then I kind of looked into it, and then I entered other competitions with their sister Instagram pages just to see if I'd get runners up in that too, and I did. And there's people commenting here in this video from over the last 2 years who have. Some people I think actually got a sticker or something. Oh, there we go. Surfer Shore got me. I got the $80 mystery box after winning. They sent me a $5 pair of shades, but made me pay $20 in shipping. So there were some people, and I did get messages from people too. Some people received stickers. Some people received nothing. That person received a pair of sunnies. So yeah, that's what this person's talking about. I'd forgotten that video was even up there, if I'm honest. Sorry, would have kissed my patu. Whakapapa is huge. Your ancestors experienced, and biology is affected by their environment, i.e., where you are from. That is passed through you. Yeah, I 100% understand that. I was more talking about not your. You can be proud of your family, for instance, your ancestors, even your people, but being proud of the land mass you live on is strange to me. But if you're a part of a culture or a particular family, all that type of stuff, I understand that fully. But being proud to be a New Zealander, to me, is. I'm not a New Zealander, I'm Australian, so I'll say being proud to be an Australian for me would be odd. But being proud of my particular ancestry might not be odd. And Surf Freck, agree with you about patriotism. Nobody chooses where they're going to be born. Yeah, that's kind of the thing that I thought. I think maybe to me, if you're proud of something, it's something you've accomplished, or you're proud of someone because they've accomplished it. Whereas if I'm lucky enough to be born in Australia or wherever, I don't really have anything to do with that. They are one and the same. The land affects the people affect the land. Yeah, I think you're. Sorry, I think we're getting wires crossed with like um, the actual country with the borders drawn around it. So when I think of a country, if I'm proud to be Australian, the way I'm talking about it, that is obviously not the way you're talking about it, but that means I'm proud of my city and the schools within it and the hospitals within it and the government that runs it and that society as a whole, as opposed to, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, what you're talking about your people, your ancestors, who certainly shaped the land, but not in the sense of society, we'll call it, although that could be argued too. But yeah, I get what you're saying. It's hard to put thoughts into words sometimes. Anyway, don't get scammed by those Instagram pages. If you're on Instagram, let me show you one more time. Oh, where are they? No, it's gone. We'll see if they're on there anyway. If those pages still exist or they've been deleted. I contacted so many shapers about it from all around the world who were all reporting these guys, and we were all reporting the accounts together, and just nothing happened. So it wouldn't surprise me if they were all still up there. Oh, but yeah. Well, no, it's this video again. Oh no, fiberglass over the top of the ding before painting. Then paint and a lighter layer of glass again. Same guy up here, same video. Why PU foam to fill the ding and not cut out the boarding and backfill with EPS, which you can sand down. The boarding, I don't know what that is. Oh no, fiberglass. I'm guessing there's meant to be a comma there. Oh, no fiberglass over the top of the ding before painting, then paint, and a lighter layer of glass again. Okay, I can understand that. Just popped in to say your videos have helped spark my enthusiasm for surfing and mucking around with my own touch-ups, etc. Happy New Year, brother. All the best with your business and media ventures. Same to you, and glad you're having fun with it. And yeah, happy to hear it. Thanks for joining. So I do this, I'll say once a week, but sometimes I slack off. But basically, comments on the videos instead of just answering them during the day in my own time. I try and save the more interesting ones and once a week come and sort of answer them on the live stream. And that way, if there's questions that arise from the answers, then people can ask follow on questions, you know? So this guy, basically, he's saying, I'm guessing, or questioning, is why I didn't cut out the ding, fill it with foam, sand the foam. We'll do a micro balloon thing to fill the holes, and then put fiberglass over that, then paint that fiberglass. Being poly, I'd have to fiberglass over it, resin coat over it, sand all of that, then paint it, then put another layer of fiberglass over it, another layer of resin over it, then sand it, then pinstripe it. So just thinking about it then, it's a lot of extra steps, but also the way these boards are built is they're foam blank, paint on foam, fiberglass on paint, and that's it. So we've repaired it the exact same way. We've replaced the foam, we've painted the foam, we've glassed over the foam. That's the same way the board was built. So that one's easy to answer. The board was built in this order: foam, paint, fiberglass. We have fixed the board in the same order. Only those 3 steps. Granted, the micro balloons filling pinholes in the foam extra. Proposed method would be foam there in brackets, fill pinholes. Oh no, because that's the board, right? Foam, fill pinholes, glass, resin, sand, paint, glass, resin, sand, stripe. My method was foam, fill pinholes, paint, glass, resin, pinstripe. Is that right? Foam, fill pinholes, paint, glass, resin, pinstripe. I've put sand in there, so I'll skip that. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 steps. Your method has 9 stages to it. Mine has 6. Rebuilds the board in the same way it was. That's my thinking anyway. That was a long one. And the same guy. Alright, this was a tricky one. Why PU foam to fill the ding? I can answer that. And not cut out the... Oh. Maybe the BR's a mistake. And not cut out the ding and backfill with EPS, which you can sand down. So... board is made of PU foam. Hard not to write these comments and sound like you just having a go, you know? Gotta kind of make it sound friendly, you know? It's tricky in text. Few reasons for the madness. Board is made of PU foam. That's why I used PU foam. That said, even if it were made of EPS, still would have used PU. A high density EPS is going to be, oh god, what have I done now? Jeez. 28 kg per meter squared. PU is 56 kg per meter squared. PS is cheap, weak, hates water. Don't like the amount of white that's going on right now. How do I... Oh, there we go. It's not a good material in my opinion. The other thing stopping us from using EPS in this job is that the board is with polyresin. Polyresin, oily resin. Polyresin would melt the EPS foam. Could still do the repair in epoxy. Epoxy works fine over poly and on PU foam as well, but it is vastly more expensive, takes much longer. Paint would have to be on top of the epoxy, not beneath. It would look weird as the rest of the board has. Well, we're almost there, guys. It's paint beneath glass. Holy moly. A few reasons for the madness. The board is made of PU foam. That's why I use PU foam. That said, even if it were made of EPS, I still would have used PU. A high density EPS is going to be 28 kilograms per meter squared. My PU foam is 56 kilograms. Why is that in capitals? My PU foam is 56 kilograms per meter squared. EPS is cheap, weak, and hates water. It's not a good material, in my opinion. The other thing stopping us from using EPS on this job is that the board is laminated with polyresin. Polyresin would melt the EPS foam. We could still do the repair in epoxy, as epoxy works fine over poly and on PU foam as well, but it is vastly more expensive, takes much longer, and the paint would have to be on top of the epoxy, not beneath, which would look weird as the rest of the board has its paint beneath the glass. Epoxy doesn't like to laminate over non-water-based paints. Paints are not water-based. Paints would also melt the EPS foam, so it would require a barrier between paint and foam. Wow, my head. Jeez. Well, I think you guys I think that's it. It is. We've read all of them. I will get back to these people, but I won't make you guys sit there and watch me type for 7 odd hours. I didn't write back to this guy, but I will. Yes, that was the method of, yeah, I will do a video on that. I'm keen to try that out. You know, it's funny, I got a sup brought into me today. It was a agenda sup. And the guy had his sup on the roof of his car. He strapped it from the roof racks, and then halfway through he was kind of watching the waves as he was suiting up, and then he changed his mind and thought, I'm going to take my other board out. So he took his other board out, and then he was sitting out there in the water, and he looked back at his car, and there was like a big thing on the ground next to his car, and he was like, what the hell is that? And then he realised what it was, and he hadn't stropped the sup back down to his roof, and while he was out surfing, the wind just blew the sup off the roof of his car. It flipped over, landed on its fins, and it busted both of the future boxes. So it's 2 future repairs on the one board. No water in it, luckily, because it happened on land, but pretty gutting for him. But it was interesting because as I was pulling those, it pushed the boxes into the board, so I needed to pull both of them out. It's an EPS board being a SUP, and it's some pretty fancy Anegra carbon type of lamination. But as I pulled the boxes out, I noticed that they'd installed the boxes into quite large squares of high density PU foam. So they've shaped CNC the EPS blank, and then they've cut out these big rectangles, inserted a high density, probably 56-ish, 64 maybe kg PU foam, and then they've routed their fin boxes into that high density foam. And it struck me as odd that they clearly, it's a good thing for sure, because fin boxes in EPS are not a great combination, because EPS is just weak by its nature. But it struck me as weird that companies like that build entire boards out of EPS yet they clearly know that the boards are weak, because then they go to all the trouble of routing out, inserting high density PU foam into the EPS. Why not just make the whole freaking thing out of EPS, out of poly, or PU rather, and you can still glass it in epoxy. You can still have your light resin, your light construction. You can still use your carbon and Negra cloth, all the rest. But your boxes would naturally be routed into PU because the whole board's made of PU. Anyway, it made me laugh. I almost made a short about it, but I didn't. So there's that. Ding Dang, how are you, mate? Hey everyone, Ding Dang Surfboard Repair and Restoration in Cocoa Beach, Florida here. Small Kind Dings rocks. You're damn right. There you go. Cocoa Beach. Welcome. I do charge to advertise in my chat there, Ding Dang. Not really. If you're in Cocoa Beach, Florida, go check out Ding Dang Surfboard Repair. I don't know if I've ever told you this, Ding Dang. Maybe I said it in a video once, but when I started Small Kind Ding Repairs, we have a business here. It's a fish and chip shop. It's called Stingray Mats. Stingray is kind of a big deal in Mangawhai. Our harbour's full of stingrays. So Stingray Mats is our local fish and chip shop, and my friends really wanted me to name the ding repair business Dingray Dans. And so years later, I was so happy when I saw your business name, Ding Dang Surfboard Repairs, that I didn't call mine Dingray Dans, because it just would have been too confusing. Nice. Oh, you've been lurking. Good stuff. Well, we've spoken about Ace Tech skin surfboards. We've not spoken about lead head hats, but we've spoken about scammers on Instagram. We haven't done anything there. We've spoken about members, these legends. If you're there, if you didn't hear it at the beginning, members, I was going through in order to get your addresses to send you the goods, you know. But these three here, which shall remain nameless, still haven't sent me their addresses. So now I'm just opening the floor. Just shoot me your addresses, guys, and then whoever sends me their address first, this is members only, don't everybody out there start sending me your addresses, I don't want them. But for the members, send me your addresses, and I've got some resin constructions for you, which are a bit of fun. Don't get too excited, nothing too fancy, but yeah, they're pretty fun, I think. Ding Dang is a Beach Boys song. Ah, Get Out of Town. What? I used to listen to a lot of Beach Boys. I did not know that. Okay, well, that's my Spotify playlist at work tomorrow. I will look that up. I did not know that. Huh. Interesting. Shame you don't have a mic. You could sing me a bit. Yeah, anyway, members, send me your addresses. We'll kill that. That's mine. We'll kill that. And we're back to here. Nice one, guys. Thanks for watching. How long's it been? How long have we been here? No idea. Can't tell. What if I do that? I don't know how any of this stuff works. No, I have no idea how long we've been here. I haven't finished my beer. Soda. Anyway. Have a good one, guys. I'll work out how to stop this thing now. And hope you're all well. Hope the beginning of 2025 is treating you well. And we'll see you in the next one. I'll try to get that video edited tomorrow. Choo-hoo!